Hey everybody, it's Dustin again with the Webex Devices team. And today I want to just kind of talk about interoperability. There's a lot going on in the world today, and if there's one thing that we can be sure of, it's that there is at least one more video platform out there other than Cisco Webex. So I'm sure that every day you're getting talked to or asked about to either join or get information in regards to either Microsoft Teams, Zoom, Google Meet, Cisco WebEx. There's a lot out there, and they all have different pros and cons. They're all great in their own way. And this isn't a discussion about that, but what I did want to do was just talk about our Cisco WebEx devices and talk about the different ways that these devices can be very powerful and allowing you to join in many different platforms. Now, in doing that, not every platform does everything the same way. As a matter of fact, most platforms are very proprietary and they have their own software, they have their own way of doing things, and it can provide a challenge for you to be able to allow yourself to be flexible to join these different platforms. So we're not going to solve all the problems in this video series that I'm doing. Matter of fact, you've seen a lot of our Cisco CVI video series talking about the Cisco integration both with CVI and WebRTC. We're going to do another video kind of talking about how you can incorporate your devices, your Cisco devices, and join other CVI platforms as well, because the reality of it is not everybody's going to have the Cisco CVI solution, but they're probably going to have Cisco devices, and I want to make sure that you can use those devices as easy as possible. But today's focus is going to be, for the most part, on Zoom meetings, because that is another platform that you're at least familiar with, or you're having to join on a often, sometimes rare, but sometimes everyday basis. So what are the things that we can do, and what are some things that we can share with you to make your overall Zoom meeting experience better? Now, full disclaimer, I work for Cisco, I do not work for Zoom, so I do not know what is available in the near future. They may release something while I'm recording this video that could change some of this. So all I am able to do for you now is kind of show you what I know, and hopefully that there's some enhancements coming down the road. I know I've been working with some Zoom engineers and asking for some enhancements and seeing what they've got coming down the pike. Definitely have some ideas, so stay tuned. As soon as we can get some traction on that, I'll definitely update and let you guys know. But this is real practical and things that you can do today. This is in no way an extensive list or way of being able to do things. There's a lot of other things that you could potentially do, but I think that this is something that is pretty easy to install, pretty easy to set up, and will take care of most of the common feature gaps that you're going to have when joining via a Zoom client or a Zoom client on like a Zoom Room type device, which as you might can see, I actually have one behind me. So anyways, let's go ahead and kind of get started and show you a little bit about what I'm talking about. So I've got my desktop here. I'm doing my kind of a graphical visualization of my cloud registered device here. Now, most everything I'm showing here will also work on an on-premise device, so if you're not Webex Cloud registered, that's fine, or if you're Webex Edge, this is for the most part going to be just fine for you. I will try to point out any gotchas along the way, but everything I am using here is assuming that you are up to date with your codecs and that they're not on some older code or TC or things that do not support some of these features. But most everything I'm doing here is, by the way, out of the box. Our devices already support this. They support a whole lot more. It's just a matter of kind of showing you ways to be able to do this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you that you can obviously very basically join a Zoom meeting with just hitting the call button on a device and being able to dial the SIP URI for that meeting. Now I'm going to take a second here to kind of set something up as a level set. Everything I'm showing you here is based upon the idea that you are using the Zoom CRC connector. So this is what allows for H.323 and SIP standards-based systems to be able to dial into the Zoom meeting platform. And it also allows for things like Zoom Rooms to be able to dial out. It kind of creates this connector to Zoom meeting bridges for you. So it's a great tool. Zoom is pretty unique in the fact that not that they have a gateway service into their tenants, but they're unique in two ways, at least compared to Microsoft, in that they kind of have a global numbering system and a global tenant, which makes integrations like this a little simpler and a little more global. Plus, they also allow the ability to kind of dial out. And whereas with Microsoft, you don't have that. So in some ways, Zoom is a little more flexible in that. But either way, with both solutions, you cannot join their platform unless you're on their software or you have some sort of integration path like CVI or the Zoom CRC. So again, very important thing to note out is that I'm assuming that you have that. I will make one more caveat to say that with Zoom, they actually offer a feature that's a little bit different because of their architecture, in that where we've talked about this on Microsoft CVI, that it's tenant-based. So if I buy CVI operating licenses, which allows me to have a gateway into my Microsoft Teams tenant, if I get asked to invite it or to join a meeting from another customer and another complete tenant, sorry, I'm hitting buttons accidentally down here, I can't share or move that license. However, with Zoom, you can. So there's a couple different ways to do that. There is a kind of a Zoom management connector that you can install. We don't actually recommend that, but you could also dial into that other tenant's meeting, use their CRC connector if they have one. If they don't have one, there is a process which will allow you to kind of do like an Apple TV pairing program where you can log into your account and leverage your license to be able to join that meeting. So I'll try to put some links in the comments so that way you can see what I'm talking about. I'm not going to go into detail with that, this is probably not the only ways to do it, but it's two things to note. So a lot of caveats, a lot of things I want to set up front, so I want to make sure you understand that this is just not an out-of-the-box integration. This doesn't work for free accounts unless you have a license. So again, setting those expectations so you don't think that you can just go out and do this without some additional costs. Okay, so let's go ahead and start to just dial into a Zoom meeting. So I'm actually going to dial into a meeting that I have here. And what I'm going to do here is just dial the @Zoom CRC, and I'm going to hit call. So one thing you'll notice here is that I'm doing a SIP call. I'm in here. This is my Zoom meeting. You are probably familiar with this. It's taking me straight to my IVR, and then I could put in my passcode, which could be any link PIN code that I have, using DTMF tones and pressing the pound key to join. Now, this particular meeting I have set up for this demo has actually an alphanumeric passcode, and you may have been running into this. I know there's been a lot of questions around it. So actually, in this particular scenario, I'm unable to join because I'm not able to type in with a standards-based device right now the alpha characters to be able to get me my passcode. So this is going to cause me a problem, and you may be running into this because now that we have the ability to do alphanumeric passcode on Zoom IDs, I really don't have any way to be able to join this meeting. So all I can do is end this call. So one of the things I want to share with you that I have created, now I am in no way a pro at this, but to kind of help fix this or help you for your environments where you do have these issues, where you have meeting invites that have a passcode, I'm going to show you a couple ways that you can join. So first of all, you'll notice that I have this Zoom meeting button down here, and you guys have seen me with other videos and different variations of this. I'm going to hit this Zoom meeting button, and all this does is a macro that we wrote. And if you think of the join Webex button, it's actually a bit similar, it just is skinned and looks a little different. But in this case, it's just going to prompt the user for enter the Zoom meeting ID for your invite. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same meeting ID here. And then I'm going to hit the next button. And then now it's going to prompt me for my passcode. So the thing about Zoom is you can formulate your dial string to include the passcode to be able to dial you directly into the meeting. So in this case, since this is alpha, and it could be numeric, but if it's alphanumeric, in this case mine is just the AAA, BBB, and then I'm going to hit next. This is going to actually formulate that dial string, and this is that same meeting, but instead of getting prompted to the IVR, it's going to let me into the meeting, and in this particular case, it's telling me my meeting ID, and it's telling me that I am the only person in the meeting, and it gives me this press *1 for meeting controls. Now, I am joining through the Zoom CRC connector on this tenant, which was licensed, so this is allowing me to use my standards-based device. This is a cloud registered device. This could also be an on-prem device, but just know that you have this capability. No one's in here, but this is a great way to give an easier way for your users to be able to dial into Zoom meetings, whether it's your own meeting, again, or a third-party meeting that you might have. So let's go ahead and end that. Now, another way to do this is to use the hybrid calendar service. Now, this works really, really well if you're on-prem with Edge connected, or even if you're completely cloud connected. But there's a few things that I want to show you that you would need to do to kind of make this service work a little more seamlessly. So I'm going to bring up my browser here, and I'm going to go over here to my Zoom panel, and I'm going to go to the branding section over here under Advanced on my Zoom panel. And if you'll notice, I've got my email templates here, and I'm going to go down here to my meeting schedule email, and I'm going to edit it. And this is a little bit tricky if you're not familiar with some basic coding or HTML code. But I'm going to kind of go through this a little bit slower here. You can edit all of this and make a lot of changes. You can also preview it. But what we're going to do here is we're going to scroll down, and you're going to find, as I get to it here, past the meeting ID, you're going to find this Join by SIP area right here. Now, I've made a change to mine right here. This is exactly what we're talking about. Now, this is the SIP domain at zoomcrc.com. If you have a vanity domain or something different, that could be potentially different. And this is all documented in the Zoom help documentation. But the big thing here is that you normally would just have the meeting number. But what I have done here is I've added this additional switch, or this additional condition, which is the password. So that alphanumeric password that's set whenever you schedule the meeting or your PMR, it's actually going to put in the invite both of those information in both of those pieces of information in the dial string. Now, this information exists already in the invite because people would have to have the invite for this. But what I'm doing down here is I'm actually putting it in the Join by SIP dial string. I also added here this little additional SIP : and that is basically a protocol handler, and I'll explain why I did that here in just a second. But for a lot of people, this may not be needed. It's needed for one specific use case, and this is just a pro tip here because it's funny how it works, but we'll explain in a second. So now, if you'll remember in other videos, we have the ability with our hybrid calendar service to automatically parse one button to push or properly formulated SIP URIs in our one button to push hybrid calendar service. So by doing this SIP : and having this dial string, that kind of guarantees and qualifies this as a valid SIP URI for us to be able to capture. And whenever you send that invite, whether you're using a Zoom plugin or from from Outlook or from Outlook Web Access or Apple, whatever it is that you're doing to enter that in, when you have hybrid calendar set up on your room systems, they will be able to get this invite, and you'll get your one button to push. So that same process where I use my macro to be able to enter in the meeting ID .password and have it dial in, this right here will allow your one button to push service to be able to do the same thing. Now, I will say you do not have to do this with the password. You could leave it blank, and this will still work if you have the numeric only passwords for your meetings. They could still get brought into the IVR. They'll be able to put in their meeting ID using DTMF tones, hit the pound key, and to be able to dial right in. But without that, this field right here, you would not be able to join if it had alpha characters in it. So the last thing is I mentioned this SIP : this right here, the reason we have to do that is if you're using Outlook for Windows, this is the only client that I have seen that actually has this issue. If you're using Outlook for Windows, it has a great kind of feature into it that actually kind of makes things hard for us, but there's a hyperlink. It automatically creates hyperlinks for things for you, like URLs, or in this case, SIP URIs. The problem is that Outlook will automatically detect this and determine or think that it is an email address. So it creates a hyperlink with the SIP handler, or with the handler of mailed to. And that is something that our hybrid calendar service intentionally removes or avoids. So by adding the SIP : the application handler in your invite, Outlook for Windows will not do that for you, and therefore it will just work by, because it realizes it's a SIP URI. Then the hybrid calendar service will be able to pick up this invite. The only client I have seen to have this issue has been Outlook for Windows. All of the clients do not have to have this, so just be mindful of that, and in case you run into that issue. So let's see this in action real quick. I'm going to go to my calendar here, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a meeting. But what I'm going to do here is go ahead and add a Zoom meeting. I'm going to allow this to pop up in a new window. I'm going to sign in, and you'll see here that it just kind of defaults to Dustin Baker's Zoom meeting. A couple things I want to show you here is, because I've got my template, you see this joined by SIP, and this actually created that same. This just happens to be a PMR that I set up temporarily. There's that handler that's in there. I can also now invite expose location, and then I'm going to do the Webex Edge Pro, just so you can see a couple different devices here. And then what I'm going to do is also invite my admin account, and we'll go ahead and send this. So now this meeting invitation will be sent, and it's going to go out. Now what I'm also going to do here is I'm going to join in here just in a second on my other client here. So bear with me. So I've joined there, and let's go back to our other devices. So this is my same one here. Now you'll notice I've got my one button to push. So I'm going to be able to hit join on this. I'm going to mute myself. And you'll actually see I have one participant in already, and I'm going to bring in another one. And you'll see that I actually have a couple devices in here. This one's actually picking up my voice, so it switched. But I have two participants, 3 including myself, in this call. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you one last thing. So while you're in the call, you do have some features and capabilities that you can do with DTMF tones, but the problem is it's difficult for people to actually want to understand or remember these. It's like, you know, when you go to dial a cell phone number, you don't know someone's number, you just want to find their name, click on it, and have that action happen. So another thing that I want to share with you guys and show is a way to kind of help simplify that for your users. So in this particular instance here, I have this Zoom in call control panel. Now you'll also notice that this actually didn't show up on the Touch 10 until I was in this Zoom call. So you could have some logic to where it only happens whenever it's in a Zoom call. As you see here, that there's a couple things I can do just by making it simpler. I could say call control. So if I hit my change layout button, you'll notice that on my device, it sent those DTMF tones for me and allowed me to change the layout by using those on my system. So here I just went to the full screen. This is the, I believe they call it the prominent overview, and then the equal layout. Another thing I can do things is, like, for example, the gallery controls, meeting controls, so I can have it to show participants. I can bring that up. It tells me who's in here. I could do things like show and hide names. So if you see the names at the bottom there, I hit that. Sorry, here, hit this again. So that one is not working. I may have to change that one. So didn't test all of them. But as you can kind of see, the idea and the concept here is it gives you some flexibility for your users to be able to make their overall join experience a little bit simpler and a little bit easier to use. So this is just a couple things that I've done, a couple ideas for you to give you and your Zoom meetings just a little bit better experience for your end users. Again, not extensive. I'll be sharing the macros very basically on a GitHub so you guys can take it, play around. And I know that there's plenty of people out here that can improve these and make them so much better than I can, so we're looking forward to that. If you have any more questions, definitely comment below. And I am going to leave on this one note because I get asked this every day. And that is, will we do WebRTC with Microsoft Teams? Can we do WebRTC with Zoom? And I'm just going to tell you and say up front that no, you cannot. There's a lot of reasons why. There's some technical reasons. That may change. I am not claiming one way or the other. I don't know. That's not a call that I make. But it's not supported today, and right now this is the only way that you can join into a Cisco meeting, or sorry, a Zoom meeting with a Cisco device. But it is a very great way to join, and I'm hoping that it will improve your overall experience. So thanks again for the time today. Another long video. I know I try to keep these short, but this was a pretty important one, and I hope it provides value. And definitely give some feedback and let me know, and let's work together to make Cisco devices work great on all platforms. So thanks for joining me, and have a great day.